Hello and welcome to Enlightened Empaths, your community for the spiritually awakened, where we discuss, explore, and connect with fellow empaths, healers, intuitives, and seekers. Hello, empaths. As we move into the new year, we're all wondering if 2022 will be better for us than the last couple of years. Well, today we have two amazing guests on the show to help us understand some of the never before seen in our lifetime astrological influences heading our way. Ophira and Talia Dude are professional astrologers and identical twins who reach millions of followers every day through their #1 ranking horoscope site, astrostyle.com. For the last 2 decades, they've been the official astrologers for Elle magazine. The AstroTwins bring the stars down to earth with their unique lifestyle and coaching-based approach to astrology. They're also best-selling authors, having written a collection of books like AstroStyle, Love Zodiac, and Momstrology. And today they are here with us to discuss their latest book called the AstroTwins 2022 Horoscope, the complete yearly guide for every zodiac sign, to give us some intriguing insights into what the new year has in store for us. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Hello. Hi, so happy to be here.
Oh, it's great to hear your voices. So let's just start off by, I feel like we don't really need your background. I feel like all of our listeners know who you are and have been following you as long as Denise and I have. But I spent the weekend reading through your book, which is just phenomenal. And one of the things that struck me is you refer to this new year as the year of the new abnormal. And I'd love for you guys to start us off by telling us, what does that mean? And is it as bad as it sounds?
It's not. No, not at all. The reason we're calling it the year of the new abnormal is because we are unquestionably in the age of Aquarius now. And we're moving deeper and deeper into that in this decade. Ophi can expand a little bit on the Aquarian decade, as we're calling it. But what is happening is that there's just no going back, Aquarius shakes up the systems, everything from relationships to the way we do money to, how we work. And it's what the world needs. Clinging to these old ways of doing things is what's destroying our environment. We're not living in harmony with the planet anymore. But now we have technology, very Aquarian as well, influencing and shaping the way, we have to recreate our new systems grounded in the earth as well, and our analog bodies, as well as taking into account technology, cryptocurrency, global pandemics, all of these things that we've never dealt with before. Yet we do feel, and the reason we're calling it the new abnormal is because we are now, and given the placement of the planets, we're equipped in a new way to start dealing with the fact that life as we know it is changing, but we have to move forward with that instead of trying to resuscitate and revive things from the past that no longer make sense.
That helps a lot. So kind of what you resist, persist, and just act like you're listening to Frozen and let it go.
Yes, absolutely. Let it go, or at least bring what is still relevant, but be ready for it to take a new form. This may be language that all of our audiences understand. It's like we have one foot in the 3D world and universe and one in the 5D. So we're simultaneously living in linear time in bodies, like Tali said, but also in this kind of created quantum serendipitous, everything's speeding up sort of plane or frequency as well. So it's very surreal. I think we came up with the new abnormal too, because we were asked as astrologers, as you guys probably were, as healers, when are things going to go back to normal? And, the answer was never that normal, but we need to create a new one. So,
right. And it's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It's just a little disorienting. It's disorienting when you know what you don't want, or where you've been, but you don't yet know what you do want. You're still creating the future, and that's unclear. So it's a little bit like being
a balloon with the air let out of it. You don't quite know where to orient yourself. But it's also an invitation for all of us to step into our inner creator status. You know, a lot of people, because things are so automated for us and instant and downloadable, we don't always flex and develop our creative muscles. We are the creators as well. So it's a real opportunity to be like, instead of there's no leadership, where's the leadership? Well, look within, look at yourself. Why not you? So we think it's empowering. Maybe that's our Sagittarian optimism, but and of course we want to know what signs you two are. So
Oh, for sure. I'm a Gemini.
And I'm a Sag.
Oh, 3 Sages and a Gemini. This is so perfect.
What day are you, Denise? We're December 2nd.
I'm the 8th.
Oh, wow. Oh, happy birthday. You just had
Happy
it.
birthday to both of you as well.
And we love the opposite sign magic of a Gemini, Samantha. So yes to that. No wonder you guys are such a power team. Love it.
Oh.
And when are you, Samantha? What day are you?
June 19th.
Oh, right on the very end.
Kind of on the cusp. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, it's very interesting that the North and South nodes have been in Gemini and Sagittarius for the last year and a half, and we're all coming into our karmic awakening. So
I know it, the energy has felt to me when I was pregnant with my first child. I was so excited those first 8 months. Like I just couldn't wait. That last month, I was like, okay, I'm ready to be done with pregnancy, but I'm also terrified to be done with pregnancy. That push-pull energy. And from what you guys are describing about this new abnormal and the age of Aquarius, maybe that metaphor can kind of explain why so many people are feeling kind of lonely and isolated and scared and worried and just like they can sense that there's a lot we're going to be letting go of. But similar to giving birth, sure, you're going to let go of a lot, but you're going to get so much more in return.
Yeah, it's absolutely what we wrote about in the book, in that section about the new abnormal, is that 2022 has a lot of commonalities with the year 1962. Jupiter was in Pisces and Aries. It was the year of the water tiger. Saturn was in Aquarius, all things that are repeating again in 2022. And when I think about the 60s in my idealizing way, being born in the 70s, it was like a time of where people really got in touch with what was important. There was death happening from the Vietnam War. There was, people were loosening up restrictions, remembering that, touching other people, love, and, love, the summer of love happened in the 60s, not in 1962, but it was like the precursor to this era where what was really valued was, the human connection, and people were having important conversations about life and death and what you stand up for. And there was definitely a dissolution of like society, the Mad Men 1950s, early, society of cigar smoking bros. Women's rights were coming into the conversation. Mini skirts were, so what I think people will be excited about soon enough is reconnecting to the very human, erogenous, body-based parts of ourselves, especially as the North and South nodes move on January 18th. The North node, which directs our compass, will be in Taurus, and the South node, which shows where we have some collective karmic work to do, will be in Scorpio. So this is a very different energy than the Gemini Sagittarius nodes of the that have been since May 5th, 2020, that have caused all this disinformation, separation, arguing over what's true. We're coming back to this very sensual, sexual, creative, spiritual energy that I think people don't realize how much they miss. And I'm personally excited for it, even if it means sacrificing some conveniences. It's those conveniences have been a disruption to some of our core needs that we've forgotten about.
Well said.
I absolutely love that everything that you're saying hits my Sag button, but it also validates that we are moving towards more unity on a global level, and we have to get this shit out of the way so that we can be there. One of the things you mentioned in your book that I absolutely adored was when you talked about analog and getting back to the earth and getting back to shutting off a lot of the technology. So when you describe that we have the technology coming in, but also this reconnection with the earth energy, that seems so apparent, and also cyclical back to that 1960s energy as well.
Yeah, I was wondering, are you getting any intuitive hits as a medium about for the year?
I do. I think that there's going to be some personal opinion. I think that a lot of people right now are tapping into that collective energy and feeling that there's a big shift coming in this coming year to 18 months. But it's not necessarily negative and fear-based of, oh, the Pluto return, are we going to have a big, I think it's more getting settled, putting things in the past. This last energy of the last several months has felt so much about endings, letting go, releasing, so we can embrace this new energy coming in. Are you both feeling the same?
Yeah. I love the
Good.
metaphor that Samantha
Totally.
made about birth too, because that really does fit with what you're saying, Denise. When I remember the moment, I have one daughter, she's 11, and I had gone to the birthing classes and all of the things, but when it was time to give birth, I was like, I have no freaking idea what to do. I have I have nothing to reference. My mind was like a spinning hard drive looking for something that wasn't there. So that's why I think the fear is there. And it's, we fear what we don't know, but what we probably will learn is that something automatic will kick in that we do know. Our souls may direct us rather than our thinking minds, which only have so much capacity. So it'll be interesting to see what drives people creating the next normal that will be overturned in 60 years or something. So,
Well, here's my Debbie Downer moment. For the show.
Go for it. Be the Gemini contrarian.
Here's the other side of that. Yes, the 60s were great, but the Vietnam War was hell. And we had 4 amazing leaders assassinated. So there was a lot of resistance and pushback in the 60s. And when I was reading about the Pluto return, could you tell us what that means for us? Because I believe you all had said it kind of is heralding another American Revolution type energy.
Absolutely. So we've been looking at the Pluto return in the last 3 editions of our book, actually, and we did a big thing on it in our 2021 version, and some more we carried over into this year. So on February 21st of 2022, but we just like to round it up to 22222 because we like those repeating numbers, and it's close enough. For the first time in over 250 years, Pluto will return to the exact same point, degree that it was at when the United States was formed, when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And so the same Pluto point of 1776. And, there's a lot of talk about what that's going to mean for the United States. Is it the end of the empire? Is it a rebirth? It's going to be 27 degrees and 33 minutes of Capricorn, to be exact, which means we'll soon be moving into a 20-year phase where Pluto, which is the planet that governs death and rebirth and reinvention, it's the destruction in order for the phoenix to rise from the ashes. So it's everything that we're talking about. The end of the things that no longer serve us, but finding those things in the ashes that still do. So I think that's where we really are in our history anyway. It feels like the right time for that. But when Pluto moves into Aquarius, it'll briefly go in 2023, and then in 2024 for 20 years, we're going to see a long period where technology finds its rightful place in our lives. For the last phase, since 2008, Pluto's been in Capricorn, and I don't want to get too astro jargony and date focused and lose the message here, but From 2008 to 2024, Pluto is in Capricorn, and Capricorn rules governments, hierarchies, the economy, all the things that have been wrecking balled and reinvented. We started with the first Black president. Midway through, we got an orange president. Who knows what'll happen in 2024? But that's going to be a major turning point. So it's going to be when our collective karma and all the work we've done with during Pluto and Capricorn over the 16 years really comes to pass. The prior cycle of Pluto and Sagittarius, which rules publishing, totally reformed magazine and book and print publishing, brought us the internet and the tablets and everything else. So that came a couple of years later, but information, travel, everything has changed. So I don't know if that answers that anymore, but
no, it definitely does.
Okay. Yeah, it's Pluto moves in like 12 to 20 year cycles. It's a generational planet, and we still think of it as a planet as astrologers. And yeah, it shapes periods of history. So Pluto was in Virgo in the 1960s, and there were different lessons to be learned then. So we don't have to necessarily think that it will completely repeat that.
But there will be themes of death and loss coming up over the next 18 months, because the South Node being in Scorpio from January 18th, 2022 till late July of 2023 is going to force us to change and update our conversations around death and loss. And there's going to be polarities that are going to get greater, but we see a lot of there are a lot of recurring themes from the 60s, but again, a revolution never comes without, it's like there is a big change coming, and there's no escaping the Pluto return. We are feeling that American Revolution with reproductive rights under fire and voter suppression becoming, more and more of a everyday thing in states. It's scary. So it may take a genuine revolution over the next couple of years to find our new abnormal again. What is Pluto in Aquarius is going to reform democracy, and hopefully it won't take too much of a toll on it.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense, because I was thinking more in terms of like us backing out of the Olympics in China and China taking the lead in technology. And I was going more global. So I would rather it be internal changes here.
Yeah, it's only the Pluto return for the USA. But, the Beijing Olympics are at the Pluto return. They do coincide. So Pluto in Capricorn has affected the entire world. So we will probably see some governmental and power structure shifts. There's no doubt that China is a power that the USA will have to contend with in its next Pluto phase. Interestingly, the economy has also been shaken up. The last time, one of the things I love to do as an astrologer with these long-ranging cycles like Pluto, like what was happening 250 years ago? It's so fascinating when you look, because the US dollar was actually birthed when Pluto had left Capricorn not too long before. There was a currency that called the Continental that the colonists used, and they overprinted it. It was counterfeited, and they created massive inflation. So they ended up having to create the US dollar. And now we see that happening with the US dollar in some ways, and cryptocurrency being on the rise, and now governments looking at having their own federal coin and blockchains and that sort of thing. So there may be a new monetary system ahead born out of these Pluto phases. We're also going through, the USA will also simultaneously have a Neptune opposition too. So every 84 years or so, there's a Neptune phase. Either Neptune is at the same degree or it's opposite. So we had that during the Civil War and World War II. And so there is cause for speculation that there could be some wars, but not every war is necessarily a fought as a battle. There are all kinds of information wars and other wars going on.
And we do have Jupiter going to Aries, the war god, mid-year from May 10th to October 28th. So we're not trying to fear monger here, but the point is fighting, standing up for what's right, dealing with loss, the theme of Scorpio being the phoenix rising from the ashes. We are going to have to deal with some tough things in 2022. And that's part of the new abnormal, is also reminding ourselves of our resilience. It's like, I think we've become, we're moving out of all this Capricorn energy towards Aquarian energy. Capricorn was like, Big Daddy's going to save me. It's the patriarchy. It's like, I know the government will handle it. The government will, or like just blaming some force outside of yourself. And while it is true that there are things that are beyond our control, everything's gotten so behemoth, there's that personal power that people are going to rediscover in the year ahead too. And I think just like once we get in touch with that, and even what I think all of us will love is, and this is very South Node in Scorpio, personal power, not just in terms of like, I've got money to throw around, but our own collective conscious, when we come together as people, or even create a psychic field. I'm so, like, I think about cities where they did transcendental meditation. There have been, experiments to see if that would bring down the crime in cities. And I think it yielded some really interesting results. I don't know where off the top of my head, but there are studies that you can read about with that. But I think enlightened seekers and empaths are really going to have, shine in 2022. We've got Jupiter and Neptune meeting up in Pisces for the first time since 1865, which is when the spiritualist movement was at its heyday and people just hung out with ghosts and had seances. So mediumship and understanding our power, and as Ophi said earlier, the 5D world is really gonna develop alongside all these 3D world breakdowns. So that should give everyone some hope here. Certainly does for me.
Well, I think too, the fact that it's a 6-year, so there's going to be a lot of love energy. And I know a lot of folks I've been talking to lately, they're ready. They're ready to open their hearts. They're ready to open their world again to the reciprocity with not only other people or circumstances, but also with themselves. So could you chat a bit about the numerology and how that might help balance things out a bit?
Oh, sure. Well, when
Yeah.
you think about 2022, also it has two, and our numerologist, Felicia Bender, who's an amazing gifted numerologist, wrote a bit about this in our 2022 horoscope book. So, but she said that, there's 3 2s and then a 0, and 0 amplifies everything around it. So 2 alone is the number of partnership and harmony and caring and coming together. It can even be a little bit of like and 6 as well. 6 and 2 have a similar resonance. 6 is willing to kind of make sacrifices in the name of love. 6 is the visionary. Felicia always talks about 6 being the pregnant belly. So I love that you kind of, that metaphor has found its way in, it's like we are sort of all pregnant with possibilities that are gestating and we can't see. And so the 6th year is when we kind of get to design the baby room. And, like it is a time to really give birth to your own creative visions. So it might even be that we're kind of creating these micro realities, micro communities. I mean, I live in Seattle. This is Tali, and it's, very hippie here. I have multiple friends who have bought land together and they've just decided they want to build intentional communities and create their own values. And that's one way of dealing, it's like, okay, we can't change the outside world, but here's our microcosm. And that is a way a lot of people may choose, I don't want to say survive because that's dramatic, but survive during a 6 year to really restore themselves in the spirit of love and harmony and family that I think doesn't always get supported if you don't fit a certain mold in the outside world.
We wouldn't know anything about that.
Oh no. Who here is surrounded by crystals? Raise your hand right now.
Exactly.
I'm going to build an intentional community with my crystals, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we almost have enough to build a small yurt.
Same here. Don't get me started on crystals. What are your favorite crystals? I just have to ask.
Ooh, I love it.
Go ahead, Ophi.
You know what? I've been wearing a volcanic rock bracelet. I'm not a big crystal bracelet wearer usually, but it called to me recently, I think because it was supposed to be grounding and centering, and in this new abnormal vibe, so little is. So I've been really
but also helps you for the eruptions of change coming.
Oh, nice. I love it.
I love it too. And did you know with bracelets, if you wear it on your left wrist, it helps you receive that energy. And if you wear it on your right wrist, it helps you give off that energy.
Ooh, I did not. I love this. This is amazing. So let me see. I intuitively put it on my right wrist today, so I might need to switch it later when I've given off enough. So.
Yes, enough grounding. Just want to receive it. Tally, how about you?
Grounding, switching to left.
Yup. You know what? It changes. For a while, I was like in the creative zone with the labradorite, which is always a favorite. But we were in Malibu recently, or in Topanga Canyon. There's this great crystal shop, and I got a garnet. And I feel like that I'm working with my Scorpio energy with that right now. It's just like blood and passion. Yeah. So I have it right in front of me right here. It just feels so good in my hand. So yeah.
I love it. Okay, well, let's get back to astrology. You guys also talk a lot about the Taurus Scorpio eclipses and this rare event coming up in August. Can you help us understand that?
Oh, do you mean the July 26th merging of like the Uranus and the North Node? Yeah. I can jump in, Ophi, if you want.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, this is so wherever the North and South nodes are, these are these points in the sky. They're not actual planets or anything, but they shift every 18 months, and they show where the eclipses are happening, essentially. So whatever signs the North and South nodes are in, we're going to be having eclipses for about 2 years. And so, eclipses always happen. A solar eclipse always happens at the new moon. A lunar eclipse always happens at the full moon. Solar eclipses, they both are here to reveal shadows. During a solar eclipse, a new moon eclipse, it's like the sun goes dark where it's visible, and it's like the lights are off. We have that chance to just really go inward. And in a lunar eclipse, it's like, wow, you're really seeing your shadow. So those themes are going to come up around Taurus Scorpio, which is the way we handle money, our connection to our spirituality, our connection to the material world, food and farming. The North Node in Taurus, the last time we had that was between, when was that? That was actually, I don't know right now. It was
2013.
No, that was the nodes were flipped then. And I just realized.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Anyways, there were eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio 2013.
1985. It was 1985. 86.
Okay, thank you. So it's been a while since the North Node's been in Taurus, and we had it one time before that, but we'll get that date later. Anyways, the eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio are really taking us, highlighting the need to really be spiritually connected to the earth, to use our intuition to reconnect to that again, and showing us where we've really traveled a little too far away. Our moral compass has perhaps gone astray, both individual, and there's a bit of a moralistic energy involved with both signs. A little bit, we're gonna have to be careful not to like judge and shame ourselves. But the thing with these is that we're gonna have to just really be more body centric too. And Ophi, do you want to talk about the Uranus North Node conjunction? Yeah.
And I'm remembering 2003 and 4 with the last Scorpio.
That's right. It was right after
all the
September
economic
11th.
and the .com crashes, when things started to get a little more stabilized. So, but Uranus and the North Node together, I think that's going to have, Uranus is technology. So there are a lot of people speculating that, Bitcoin, for example, will be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars and may have a crash before then. So that could be a time for either a crash or a big takeoff, or a time when governments announce their rollout official digital currencies or that sort of thing. That's a possibility. I'm also seeing a lot of, the 3D printing converging with health care, the food supply, technology helping us with our basic everyday needs. That's where I think Uranus, with its innovation, could merge with the North Node, what society needs to sustain itself on a daily basis. Uranus is very revolutionary, so where will we see more justice or equality in terms of the way resources are distributed? It's a very interesting time, with Saturn being in Aquarius, a sign of society, and this Uranus and North Node in Taurus. It's very much about like old school and new school. There's a strong kind of modern socialism bent happening. There's talk of a universal basic income for the United States and adopting models like that. And then there's a lot of people who feel that would take away from some of the free market things that people want to do. So I think we're settling out how to take some of the models from societies and cultures where people have their basic needs met, but not to the point where there's no freedom to sort of strive, for lack of a better word. I know striving doesn't always have a lot of spiritual connotation, but there's a desire for some people to express their potential through success, but we're not wanting to do that at the expense of other people. So I really think that the next couple of years, while we have Saturn in Aquarius and this North Node and Uranus both in Taurus, is going to really be trying to work out that place. How can I express my individual ambition and make sure that my community and my neighbors and the people that maybe aren't in my community have enough as well? Does that make sense?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, we have more questions. I'm glad to be a Sagittarius with a supposedly philosophical sign. And sometimes that means that you answer questions with questions, or one question leads to the next. So there aren't always answers, but there's a path to some potential solutions that we could explore, new models. The new abnormal invites new models that we could try out, not just taking what's been done.
I love that.
How does the shifting into this lunar year of the water tiger fit in? Because I feel like that's another really big shift for all of us, to go from metal to water to, again, optimistic Sag here. I feel like this is a positive. I
definitely think so. Do you follow the years, the 2-year cycles of the lunar elements, Denise?
I try to. Yeah. I try to, yes. But you just explained it beautifully. A question leads to a question, leads to a bigger rabbit hole. Let's spend hours researching the shit out of stuff until we can.
Exactly. Oh my God.
Sing into my soul with that one.
Oh yes, Sagittarius life. Ophi has made a great. We work with a feng shui expert, Kate McKinnon, and we have a whole feng shui and astrology course called Home Reset that we designed. And she made a great metaphor. She said the metal years are when you build the plumbing and the pipes, and the water years are when you turn on the taps. So if you've done the work, the last couple of years have been pretty arduous. It's so fitting that President Biden is on the Build Back Better plan, and an infrastructure bill is on the, it's like, that's all of us are dealing with our infrastructures. We have been since these metal years began in 2020. It's like every infrastructure possible had a breakdown with the pandemic. So
And let's back it up and just give people that calendar. So the lunar calendar, it's used by the Chinese zodiac, but it's based on the lunisolar calendar, which is new moon to new moon equals a month. But that's used by cultures all over the world. So we're calling it the lunar, the lunar system. And so that's a 10-year system. So every 2 years are ruled by one of the 5 elements. The first 2 years of any decade that end in a 0 or 1 are metal. Then the 2 and 3 years are water. So metal is about infrastructure, like Tali said. Then water is about flow and turning on those taps, letting things kind of just flow through all the pipes. And then 4 and 5 years are wood, which is, again, back to kind of a structured tradition. So I think we have 2 abnormal years of water flowing in all the directions. And then we'll have the wood years when normal becomes a word we start.
That's a really good point. And add the tiger in. The tiger is ruled by the planet Uranus. It is associated with the sign of Aquarius. So here's some more. So the water is coming on, but the tiger isn't exactly an emotional creature. It's very solitary. It hunts at night. It is very strategic. It'll stalk its prey for a long time. So it's also not a year to make a sudden move, like turn on the tap slowly and gently. Otherwise, the pipes might burst. So again, on the note of the water element, we have to talk about a day that's so important for every empath on the planet, which is April 12th. I think we talked about that. And what's kind of happening in the beginning of the year is that Jupiter is the planet of higher wisdom and philosophy, is going to be in Pisces for 2 phases this year. It starts December 28th of 2021 until May 10th. And then again from October 28th to December 20th. We had a little phase of Jupiter in Pisces from May 13th to July 28th of 2021 of this past year, which dovetailed with the golden hour of vaccination hope, when the masks came off and we went out and we hugged again and mingled. And I mean, we all know that was not fully resolved. We have another chance to work that out. And so April 12th, Jupiter in Pisces catches up to Neptune in Pisces. They meet at the same degree. That has not happened in Pisces since 1856. And I was talking about that earlier with that time of spiritualism, which was a movement where people were using Ouija boards and having seances, and being basically mediumship was thriving. And there were also a lot of con artists too, but of course that comes with the territory. And then there were some really amazing people who came forth then. And so this is a year where empaths and healers and mystics can thrive. And so the water element of Pisces and Neptune with Jupiter sort of amplifying it is also going to put, and the water tiger as well is going to put the tiger is very strategic and scientific. So how are we dealing with water crises? We have crises. We have dams drying up that we never thought would. Access to fresh water is still severely limited in some places in the world. Clean water issues, desalination, like we're going, water, the ocean, warming oceans. We're going to have to deal with that. I mean, yeah, with super tornadoes ripping through and winds, we're seeing, climate change, but the focus on everything from the ice, the glaciers, melting polar ice caps, to all of it. It's like, whew, we've got a lot of work to do, and I'm a little tired just thinking about it.
We do an astrological check-in about 3 times a year on this show, and we always get emails afterwards from listeners saying, does that really work? Like, have you guys looked back at your own lives and said, yeah, that fit up with this, or this fit up with that? You guys have made some amazing predictions. I mean, I think one of your most recent ones was the supply chain issue.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us to help listeners understand how astrology does work about some predictions you've made that you're most proud of?
Absolutely. Yeah, that was we made our black swan prediction with one of our in-house oracles, Matthew Swan, and we worked on a really long chapter in our 2020 book. Now, by the way, in our shop, this is our 10th anniversary edition of the book. So we have just made available all 10 years of our annual guides. They started as sort of scrappier PDFs. Our first one was 2013, but they're all there because I do believe that one of the best ways to look forward is to look back. So if anybody is interested in finding out what's happening for them in a year between 2013 and 2022, all of those are there. Most of them, I think, are for 11/11. Yeah, we looked at this historic Saturn-Pluto conjunction that happened in 2020 for the first time since the 1500s. And one of the things we saw was supply chains having issues, inflation, stagflation, all things that are happening now almost 2 years later, because they were together in Capricorn for the first time since the 1500s. And Saturn is about tangible goods, and Pluto is all those hidden forces and power and things that we can't see. So we predicted a black swan event, something that was so off of the radar of what could even be thought of, that would take everyone by surprise. And indeed, I guess we wrote that in the summer of 2019. And then there we were a few months later facing exactly that. So it's really all unfolding. That is something that we're sad to have reported on, but are proud of. We also did, in our 2018 book, predict digital currency and a move to virtual reality, multi-sensory reality. Now we have this metaverse coming from Mark Zuckerberg. Lord knows what that's going to be, but we did predict that between 2018 and 2026 with Uranus and Taurus, we would see no need to leave your desk or seat or home, that you would experience an entire 3D universe virtually. So that's coming.
And I was just gonna
yeah,
for people, I know a lot of your listeners are probably, learning astrology now. And I think you guys probably are doing that yourselves, as you go, and there's a real embrace of astrology right now in the world, which is very Aquarian age, and for anyone who's just kind of, astrology is a practice, you get better over time. So you have to let yourself get a little messy and play. You don't want, if you're still in the, there's a lot of people right now who are doing their first dabble and then they're putting out these predictions as if, it's like, I don't recommend that necessarily unless you really have this clarity, but who am I to censor anyone? I'm not. But take the pressure off of yourself to do that and let yourself play. So get to know the planets. I think Susan Miller is incredible at and she really did a great job and set the tone for all of us and taught us all how to personify the planets in a way. She talks about them like they're her friends, and we learned that. We were inspired by her to sort of take that approach and get to know the planets that way. Actually, her classic book, Planets and Possibilities, is a great one for the library essentials. And then get to know the signs. Think of the sign. Once you know the planet, Pluto is a sort of lurking underground, abandonment issue laden addict who's out of touch with, it's very unconscious some of the times, but also tantalizing, powerful, and sexual, and can bring out the animal in you. Okay, so Pluto, the sign that Pluto's in is like the costume Pluto is wearing. So when Pluto is in Capricorn, the costume is a 3-piece suit. In Pisces, it'll be some leather bondage gear. I don't know. But, kind of just playing with what is the planet going to be? What is the planet all about? The sign it's in is what it's wearing. And then you can kind of start to get the flavor. Well, what would Pluto and Capricorn be doing in this power suit? Going out and buying up real estate, becoming a 1%er. And then you can say, well,
We had the Me Too movement,
Right,
using its
right.
power at the office, or like look at how all that blew up. That was perfectly acceptable. Tali mentioned Mad Men earlier. That behavior would now be Me Too worthy. So
Yeah, Me Too happened right when 5 days after Jupiter went into Scorpio. Jupiter is the planet of outspokenness, personal power, independence, freedom, speaking your truth. It went into Scorpio, which is the ruler of sex and,
Secrets.
yeah. So like the Harvey Weinstein, the first reports came out like 5 days after that. So you can think, and that whole time Jupiter was in Scorpio, the Me Too movement was happening. So it was like shocking to see like all this, that power happen. It was amazing. It was an amazing time. It was also Jupiter can go wildly out of control too with things. So that's just an example. So what, the last piece of it for us is then going back in history and seeing, well, what was happening the last time Jupiter was in Scorpio? What was happening the last time Pluto was in Capricorn? And you kind of piece it together. It takes some time, but it's so fascinating. And that's what built our belief in astrology too, because you can't make this shit up once you see how the cycles repeat themselves. But
yeah, we have a post about plagues and pandemics and Jupiter Pluto conjunctions. We traced back all of those, and there were every
3
time
in
that happened, there was
3 of them in 2020.
There were 3 of them, and there were one of our other predictions was the exact date of the first vaccine coming out, which is a Vice interview too. So
Wow.
Yeah.
That is all amazing. You guys have a lot of courses on your website too, right?
Yes, we do. If you go to galaxy.astrostyle.com or just go to our courses link, we have courses in astrology. You can learn every planet in your chart. You can learn how to read your birth chart. So for people who are new to astrology or wanting to deepen their knowledge or really engage with one of the planets in your chart, you can do those. And then we have courses on feng shui. We have our love courses, astropreneurs, we call them. We really encourage, because I think when people start to learn who they are based on their chart, they want to then maybe have a career to express it. So we have a whole system to help you make that transition into what we call soul-centered entrepreneurship. Whether you quit your day job or start it on the side, we really strongly, as Sag is the sign of the entrepreneur, believe in encouraging, supporting, and giving people the tools to figure out how to make a living doing what they love. That's one of our biggest passions.
Oh, I love that. And it's one of the trends I think that's going to continue in the new year is more people are going to start to pursue their passions.
Absolutely. We have the whole great resignation, as they're calling it, even though that's supposedly mostly service workers. I think the mindset of the great resignation is definitely widespread now that people have had a taste of not having to commute and deal with the hellish office politics and all the inconveniences of it. So we have lots of resources to support anyone and lots of experience, since we have been entrepreneurs for our whole lives and our whole adult lives, 30 years. And we just love teaching people who are healers.
Yeah, and can't people now get it from our app, or is it available? Do we have that available right now? I know we can. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we have an app version of our school. It's I think it's called AstroTwins Galaxy, and you can download it for iOS or Android. And if you buy any of our courses, you can do it on your phone, you can do it on a desktop, or you can do it right in the app. So
that is so fun. Okay, we will put all those links in our show notes, and I'll post them on Facebook too. Before we go, I know you guys started in getting into astrology when you guys were in college studying art. Do you guys still do creative things?
Oh, definitely.
All the time.
Yeah, we tinker with some of our website pages, and we are heavily involved in like everything from the fonts to the color choices and palettes. we're lucky now that we have talented, amazing people working for us. But we, chime in with our Sagittarian vision, as you can imagine. And yeah, we're
I love that. Are you guys going to do a deck?
Sorry?
Are you guys going to do a deck?
I would love to. That has been one of our dreams to do. So are you having a psychic vision
I would
of us
love to
doing
see
that
your
or something?
design. Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, get to work, guys. We want to see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We actually have, Tali wrote the descriptions for a deck. It's one of those things that we, yes, thank you, noted. I'll take that as an intuitive message from you, Samantha.
Yes, please do. I think that would be phenomenal.
Okay.
Thank you,
Add that to
guys.
the water year.
Yes. That's right. Water's all about creativity and going with the flow and seeing where our creative inclinations lead us.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And you
thank
guys
you so
know
much
all about
for-
that. Well,
Yes.
thank you so much for having us on. This was so wonderful, and like it's fun. We spend a lot of time just writing, and when people ask questions that are so thoughtful, and it just gives us a chance to kind of have a retrospective on all the stuff we've been working on, and it's like it feels great to kind of review that, because a lot of times for me, Talia, I also feel like I'm just channeling and recording that inner voice, and it's like, wow, I guess sometimes you just keep going, and you're like, wow, we really did do a lot this year.
Yeah.
So damn.
Well,
I'll say.
I just want to add one quick little thing is on your site, your bio, anyone who goes to the site, please take the time to read through that, because it just shows how long you've been devoted to shining your light, doing this work, exploring, multicultural. It's an absolutely, and I don't know if either of you wrote that, but it's so well written, and it just pulled me right in. But it also was, you're walking in your truth, and you have forever. And I think that's such an inspiration for us, but also for so many of our listeners. So thank you.
It's a huge
thank
acknowledgement
you.
from a fellow Sag. Tali wrote that. And I encourage everyone to write their story too, because most of us don't even realize how long we've been doing that, because nobody's telling our stories for us. So that's a great exercise to do as we move into this water year. What taps are you going to turn on? What are you going to flood the world with that's positive and nourishing? So.
And spoiler alert, our story began with a 6th grade trip to space camp. So enjoy. Oh boy.
Spoken like a true cosmic coach.
Right?
Okay, well, the book is called The AstroTwins 2022 Horoscope, the complete yearly guide for every zodiac sign. We really encourage you guys to check it out. It has a full calendar of astrological events, lunar calendars, so much more. There's numerology, there's the lunar years we talked about. There's so much in there. If you go to astrostyle.com/2022 book, it'll take you right there. And as I said, we'll put all those links in our show notes and on our social media.
And they've been so generous and gifted all of our listeners with 20% off this new copy. So when you check out, you can use the promo code Empaths20, EMPATHS 20, and that will give you 20% off. So we'd like to say thank you very, very much for that very generous and kind offer.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. We've been big fans for a long time, and this has just been a huge treat. And we wish you a happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Let's do 2022 right, everyone. And great to connect with you guys. Lots of love.
You too. And thank you everyone for listening. Please remember, as always, to show up, do great work, and share your light.
Take care.